Hello everyone, it's Den here, and I am now currently in Japan, finally, after all of these years of learning Japanese and really wanting to have this experience of living in Japan for some period of time. I'm finally here. I have been to Japan once before. You can watch my video about that, but that was just a short 6-day trip, and it doesn't really give you the experience of living in a country. But I was still very happy about that experience. And now I finally actually get to live in Japan for the next 9 months. I'll be staying here as an exchange student. And yeah, I gotta say that I'm pretty excited about that. But that's not what this video is going to be about. I will make a video about my first impressions, I guess, as well. Maybe next month I'll try to make that video. But this video is going to be about the sense of accomplishment in language learning, which is something that I wanted to talk about even when I was still in Moscow, because recently I've been consuming a lot of content in Japanese. There was especially this period of time for a few weeks when I was really going hard on it because I was just enjoying watching YouTube videos in Japanese. Watched a little bit of anime. I'm actually watching a bit more now. And yeah, so that's what I want to talk about, because just through doing that, through consuming a lot of content, just like I did with English like several years ago at this point, I got better very quickly, and my listening comprehension improved quite rapidly. So I've really not been doing proper studying besides kanji and a little bit of vocab here and there for a while. It's probably been maybe 2 years since I last studied using Anki on a regular basis. So right now I'm basically at the same stage I was with English several years ago, when I was still kind of getting used to English, where I would just consume a lot of content in English, and it was by far the highest proportion of content I was consuming was in English, probably well over 95%. Yeah, I really got better very quickly because of that. And I would also speak to English speakers on the internet a lot, and I did go to English speaking countries a few times as well, which certainly helped. But yeah, I would say the biggest factor was just consuming hours upon hours of content regularly. And that's basically the stage I'm at right now with Japanese. I just need to consume more Japanese, use it more, and I'll get better. The exception is kanji, of course, because kanji is something you have to deliberately study. But even that you can kind of circumnavigate by just looking up words you don't know, and as you look them up more, you will become more familiar. And I have many examples of that. The most recent one will probably being the first kanji in the word skibuton, which is the word for mattress in Japanese. And I don't know that first kanji, but if I saw it in the word skibuton, I would be able to read it. So really, you don't even need to study kanji like that, actively. You can just look up words you don't know, and you will learn to recognize them over time, even if you didn't actively study the kanji. Now, output will be more difficult, as in writing the kanji yourself, not on a keyboard, of course, because a keyboard just shows you the right one for the reading you typed in, but writing it out by hand, that's a whole other story, but I'm not really focused on that quite yet. But yeah, anyways, I've not really been doing much active studying at all recently. I will do some just with kanji, but the majority of my improvement comes from just consuming content in Japanese and talking to Japanese people, which of course I can do way more now that I'm actually living in the country. So yeah, and the topic I specifically wanted to talk about when I was still in Moscow was how satisfying it felt to be able to actually watch Japanese content and be able to understand a fair bit. Now, here's the tricky bit though. It's actually very variable how much you can understand depending on what kind of content you're watching, which is something that I guess I would have logically been able to say before, but now I can really kind of see just how true that is, because I can watch one Minecraft Let's Play, for example, which has one speaker, just one person playing the game, and understand it very well, which I did do for a while. There is this Let's Play that you can check out by going to the link in the description. And this guy makes some really nice Let's Plays, and he speaks very clearly, and I can understand him quite well. When I watch his videos, I understand probably over 90% of what he's saying at this point. However, there is another Let's Play I was watching, which for a while was way more tricky. Actually, two of them. One by Nishizo Gumi, and one by Futaba. I'll put all of these links in the description if you're interested in checking these out. But these ones have them playing in groups of people. It's like 4 up to 10 people speaking sometimes. Well, maybe not 10, but a lot of people speaking. And the thing is, people will speak very differently when they're just monologuing, like what I'm doing right now, I guess, versus when they're talking to others. When they were talking among themselves, they were, I guess, more casual, they would speak more quickly. They don't have to like speak more politely, because for some reason when YouTubers make videos where it's just them solo, they're talking to the audience, right? So most of the time they will use polite language, and they will also speak more clearly. So that makes it easier to understand, of course. But when they're speaking among themselves, they'll use just normal casual language. So that is much more difficult to understand. At least it was for me for a while. Now I'm getting a bit better. Then there's anime, which is also very variable, because there are slice of life titles, which are much easier to understand because they're just based on the school. It's just everyday life, kind of mundane stuff that is not too hard to grasp. But then there's something like Attack on Titan, which I'm watching right now, which has all these magical things, a lot of military-related vocab, and so on. It's just a lot harder to understand. And I do get the gist of it, but I can tell that I'm missing a lot of the details. But as I do this more and more, I'll of course improve at that too. But it's just that feeling of even having some content that I can understand the majority of and just enjoy it. It was so rewarding, and it still is so rewarding, because this is what I really wanted to achieve for many years, and now I'm finally able to actually enjoy things in the language I'm learning, Japanese, as opposed to just being focused on learning it. I don't even think about learning Japanese anymore, really. I'm just thinking about using it and improving it through that. And the same goes for talking to people. I met a Japanese friend of mine a week ago. We went to Tokyo and just had a lot of fun and spent the whole day together. And we spoke a lot. We spoke like 99% in Japanese. I would just use maybe a few English words here and there when I was talking about some more difficult topic. Because we talked a lot about all sorts of things, and some of them were kind of getting more deep, like our conversations. So I would just maybe use like an English word here and there to just try to make myself understood, and then my friend would just tell me how you say that in Japanese, and we would move on. So we spoke Japanese the whole time, and it was great. I was really happy that I finally got to this level where I can even talk about more difficult topics and still hold a conversation and not really have that much trouble. However, when I came to Japan, there was kind of this realization that there's still like so much left for me to learn. Particularly when I came here, I was mostly talking with strangers, of course. Well, for the first 2 weeks, I had to speak to strangers because I had to isolate. Yeah, I would have to use, polite language with them. And I'm really not as used to that as I am to casual language. So I had a bit more struggle with that, but within a few days, I kind of got more and more comfortable. Right now, the thing I'm struggling with the most, besides like trying to understand some of the more difficult content I'm watching, is understanding Japanese people speaking among themselves in real life. So we could be in a group of friends and having a conversation. For context, I'm in my dorm from this week. So yeah, when we're like in a group of people and we're discussing something, it's really not that difficult for me when I'm part of the conversation. But when I'm just sitting and listening to them speak, it's so much harder because they'll speak very quickly. They'll use a lot of words I don't know. Because when you speak to somebody in a foreign language, if you're not like really fluent, they will kind of, mostly probably subconsciously, they will just use simpler language and they'll speak more slowly. And if you don't understand something, you'll just circumvent that by using different words. But there's no need for that when you're speaking to another native speaker. So it was just so much harder to understand them speak amongst themselves. And I'm sure I'll get better at that over time, since I'm now living here. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that it's interesting how you could be really good and there could be certain types of content that you can understand quite easily, but at the same time there will be some types of content that you really don't understand. And this can even be true for native speakers to some extent. Because imagine if you were talking to somebody about a topic you don't really know anything about, or if you were listening to other people who are into the same hobby talk about their hobby. Let's say, I'm into speedcubing, right? So I'm sure I could pretty easily hold a conversation with a Japanese speedcuber about speedcubing, but if there was another native speaker who would listen to us, they would be kind of lost. And it's not because they don't speak the language, it's because this is an unfamiliar topic for them. That's something you really should have in mind. If you feel frustrated that you're listening to some people speak and you don't understand what they're talking about, you just don't have the context. That's normal. And everyone has that. Nobody is going to be familiar about every single topic out there. There's going to be something that they'll listen to and just be really confused by because they're just not familiar with it. So if you're ever feeling frustrated about that, just think about what I just said, that this is an issue that even native speakers could have. But yeah, all of that being said, I am very, very happy with my current level of Japanese. I think that once I get to the 5-year mark, which is going to be in January 14th is when I started learning Japanese in 2016, I'll definitely be very happy with my progress. By that point, I would have improved a lot more because living in the country, you can just improve so much faster, assuming that you surround yourself with Japanese speakers for the most part, which I am trying to do. This is an international dorm, so I do speak a lot of English too, but I'm just trying to use Japanese as much as I can. And so far it's really paid off and I'm very happy with my level. So that's about everything I wanted to talk about in this video. Thank you guys for watching and for sticking around. If you would like to support my videos and support my channel, feel free to become a Patreon supporter. I would like to thank William H. and Vedro Oboev, who have been supporters of this channel on Patreon. Thank you guys, and yeah, I hope that I can bring you even more exciting content, especially now that I'm in Japan and fully moved into my dorm and out of quarantine. So yeah, look forward to future videos. Thank you guys. See ya.